All right. I will conduct a roll call of members. Comments and testimony shall be directed to the chair. All persons providing information must state their name and address for the record. The meeting will run as follows. I will read the variance request, which will open the public hearing. While I'm reading your request, the applicant or the representative should come forward and have a seat in front of the board by the microphone. Environmental staff will review the staff report and any correspondence has been received regarding the request. The applicant and or representatives will state their name and address and provide any input, corrections, concerns, comments, etc. Board will discuss the request and ask questions of staff or applicants. Upon completion of board questions, I will ask if there is anyone in the audience wishing to speak to this request. If there is, that person should come to the podium, state their name and address for the record, and give their testimony. When all testimony is complete, I will ask the board members for a motion to close the public hearing. No further input will be taken once the public hearing is closed, unless recognized by the chair or if one of the board members is seeking clarification. The board will review, discuss, and vote on the findings of fact. The findings are a series of questions that the board is required to answer based on Minnesota statute and the requirements of the ordinance. All questions must be answered in the affirmative by the board in order to grant a variance request. Our first agenda item, to consider an after-the-fact request from Jason Long of Oak Ridge Construction, Inc., New London, Minnesota, on behalf of Kurt and Jan Walter, Ham Lake, Minnesota, from Section 10.211A of the Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance 439, to leave as constructed a 470 square foot deck less than 100 feet from the ordinary high water level on Rice Lake classified recreational development. Also to construct a 16-foot wide dormer addition on the dwelling less than 100 feet from the OHWL of Rice Lake classified recreational development. Said ordinance requires a structure setback of 100 feet to the OHWL of a lake classified recreational development. The affected property is Lot 2, Block 1, Victor's Addition, Section 19, Eden Lake Township. Property address is 16453 247th Avenue, Painesville. Which board members were able to visit the site, and was there any discussion that occurred? Rob?
Yes, no discussion.
George?
No.
Dave?
No.
Mike? And I am a yes, no discussion. Staff report and any correspondence received.
Madam Chair, members of the board, we did not have any correspondence received with regards to this request. Okay, the property, as you had mentioned, is Lot 2, Block 1 of Victor's Addition, and parts of government lots 3, 4, and 5 on Rice Lake in Eden Lake Township. Victor's Addition was platted in 1975 after the official controls. The property owners acquired the property in 2019. The tract contains 72,238 square feet, or 1.6 acres in lot area, per the certificate of survey provided with the application. The property is in the R1 zoning district. Some history on the property. In 1989, the 2,080 square foot residential dwelling with attached garage was permitted and constructed by a previous owner. That permit also included a 12 by 20, 240 square foot deck. The owners would like to leave as constructed The existing 470 square foot deck that was constructed in 1989 when the original house was built. The owners would also like to construct a 16-foot wide dormer addition on the second level of the existing dwelling. The addition will be approximately 95 feet from the ordinary high water level of Rice Lake based on the survey provided with the application. The addition will be no closer to the ordinary high water level than the existing dwelling based on the building plans provided. The property is in the Shoreland Overlay District of Rice Lake, classified recreational development. Rice Lake is on the list of impaired waters for excessive nutrients. The existing impervious lot coverage is 13.23%. The proposal will not create any new impervious area on the property. The existing deck is a 20% deviation from the required setback. The proposed dormer addition is a 5% deviation of the required setback. The subsurface sewage treatment system was certified compliant in May of 2023. Eden Lake Township, Rice Lake Association, North Fork of the Crow River Watershed District, and the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources and property owners within 500 feet have been notified of this request. And as I mentioned, there were no other correspondence that were received. Thank you.
Applicants, please provide your name and address for the record and any comments or questions for the board at this time.
My name is Jason Long with Oak Ridge Construction. My address is 24809 55th Street, Northeast, New London, Minnesota. I am here, like Jamie discussed, asking for a variance. So the Walters purchased the property in 2019. Thank you. The Walters purchased the property in 2019, like Jamie had discussed. The original homeowners built the property in 1989. I was out to this site and measured that shoreland setback. And when I was out there from high water mark this spring to the building was 122 feet. The problem is when the home was built, everything was being done through the county at the time was, done, I call it old school. You had to measure, you looked like Jamie and I talked, you looked for, moss on the rocks, you looked at high water marks. We pulled our tape measures back from that area and we found that 100-foot setback at that time. Since then, the county has required and had that lake surveyed. So now the surveyors went around there and said, okay, the high water mark is at this point. Like I said, this spring when I was out there in the water was at a high point. We were still 122 feet from the house to the water. So in 1989, I'm assuming when they built that new home, they pulled the 100-foot like they typically did back then. Today it's a lot easier because we do have surveys and maps that we can go off of. So if you look around the lakes, even the neighbor's house is closer, than what it shows. So in 2019, when they bought the house, they assume everything's correct, right? They don't know anything, and when you close with a real estate agent and the attorneys and they do all of them things, none of that stuff is checked, for a closing. So they assume property that they're buying, everything is correct. So now they want to take and do this dormer addition, and what they're proposing is there's already in one of the pictures, previously there's a shed dormer there on the lakeside, you can see it there, and the chimney. So what we want to do is remove that shed style and the chimney and take that same property and just go up with a gable addition there instead of a shed roof. So that's all they're looking for. We're not coming out towards the lake any farther. We're not doing anything like that. We're just coming up and we're removing the chimney. So we're not getting any closer, and no structural changes are going to be made as far as foundation, anything hurting the impervious surface area also. So let's see here. Oh, and then one question was the existing deck that was there. So Jamie and I had discussed that when this was originally permitted, I believe it was permitted for was it 20 by 10, Jamie?
Actually permitted at 12 by 20.
Okay.
240 square.
Okay, 12 by 20. Well, the deck that is on there is larger than that. That was on there when Walters purchased the property in 2019. So, and I did look at it, it is an original deck. So at that time in 1989, when they built, they must ask their contractor, let's build this bigger. Well, in 1989, Stearns County, all they did was a land use building, or it wasn't even a building permit, it was a land use permit is what they authorized. So there was no inspectors going around checking any of this stuff. So this is an original deck that has been there since 1989. And when Walters purchased the property in 2019, they had no idea that it would be any bigger than what wasn't granted for that. So, so that's what they're requesting, is basically just to add that dormer, remove the shed roof, and give the house a little more character and add the dormer. I did talk to the neighbor that was next door, and Kim Goff, and visited with her, and she signed off that she had no problems with what was going to be done on the neighbors on Walter's property. So I do have that if anybody wants a copy of that.
Madam Chair, members of the board, that was actually in your packet already, so you would have seen a copy of that.
Are there any questions for me regarding this?
What's the purpose of adding the dormer? Is it just for looks?
Yeah, it's purely aesthetics. Yep, purely aesthetics. It doesn't change, you know, well, aesthetics and letting light into the upstairs, because that's it overlooks the inside on the second level, so to bring all of that light inside the house. So
Do any board members have any questions or clarifications? You guys good? Have any questions? Is there anyone wanting to provide any testimony? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Anyone wanting to provide any testimony, please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Anyone wanting to provide any testimony, please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
Madam Chair, I'll move to close the public hearing.
And a second. Is there any further discussion?
just have a quick question. When would you guys make the decision on this for my clients?
Tonight.
Tonight?
It's about 5 minutes.
Oh, okay, in about 5 minutes? So, so you'll let a person know before we leave then, or, oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay, okay, sounds good. I've never done this before, so I apologize. All right, thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say sign. The public hearing is closed. We will proceed to the findings. We're going to do number A. The leave as constructed a 470 square foot deck, 80 feet from the ordinary high water level on Rice Lake classified recreational development. Bear with me here. All right, number one, is the proposed use allowed in the zoning district in which the subject property is located? Yes or no? Dave?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that again?
Is the proposed use allowed in the zoning district in which the subject property is located?
Yes, they are allowed.
Rob?
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I should have asked sooner, but we're leaving both of them together, the deck and the dormer?
No, we're gonna do them separate.
Okay, this is the dormer? Or
This one is the after the fact,
The
Okay.
deck.
the
the
deck.
deck? Okay.
Yeah, decks are allowed, so
Yes.
yes.
In R1, they are allowed.
Mike? Yes. George?
Yes.
And I'm also a yes. Number two, Is the variance in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the official control? Dave?
Yes.
Rob?
Madam Chair, I'm going to say no. The goal of the comprehensive plan and the appendix is to protect the water. And we're 20% above, or 20% closer than it should be. And technically, it's twice as big as it should be.
Mike?
Yes.
George?
I'm going to say yes because it's already been built, and I think that the county's benefit is outweighed by the applicant's burden if they have to tear it off and redo it.
And I do agree with you, George, so I'm also a yes. Number 3, is the variance request consistent with the comprehensive plan? State specifically which goals or objectives are met or not met for the record. Dave?
Yes, specifically, and I had it here. Bear with me one second. Where did it go? There it is. Item number 8 under Lakeshore Living Policies. I believe this project is compatible with the comp plan. It preserves sight lines and does not negatively impact view sheds of adjacent properties.
Rob?
I'll agree with Dave.
Mike?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
And I'm also a yes. Number 4, is the property owner proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by an official control? Yes or no? Dave?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
George? And I'm also a yes. Number 5, is the plight of the landowner due to...
Madam Chair,
Yep.
excuse me, sorry for breaking in on you. We need to have a reason. We can't just say yes. We have to have a reason why you're saying yes.
It's reasonable to want a deck. Is that good?
If that's your
Anyone
answer,
care to...
we need to have
differ?
something other than just a yes or a no. So I have to have documentation why.
Number 5, is the plight of the landowner due to circumstances unique to the property not created by the landowner? Yes or no? Dave?
This question always trips me up. Could you repeat it one more time?
Is the plight of the landowner due to circumstances unique to the property not created by the landowner?
No, it wasn't created by the landowner. It's been there for a while.
So you're a yes?
Yeah, yes.
Rob?
I'm gonna be the opposite of Dave. I'm gonna say once you buy the property, you're responsible for the things that are wrong to it. So I'm gonna say no.
Mike?
I vote yes. It already exists.
George?
I'm going to say yes. We need to consider it after the fact, and again, I'm going to go back to I don't think the county's benefit is outweighed by the applicant, the burden on the applicant.
And I'm going to add to George and say yes too, but you know, there was a land use permit issued. Back then, things probably weren't quite as up to par as they are now. Number 6, will the variance maintain the essential character of the locality? Yes or no? Dave?
Yes, I believe it will maintain the character of the area as it exists right now.
Rob?
I'm gonna say yes, that unless you are familiar, really familiar with the area, you're not gonna notice that deck on there. It's been there for 20 plus years.
Mike?
Yes. The deck was overbuilt when it was built. And I think that the aesthetics of the roof line much improved.
Well, I think if you remove the deck that it would look odd since it's been there for quite some time. So I'm a yes. So George?
Yes, there are other decks in the area, so it's not going to change anything.
Number 7, the need for the variance involves more than economic consideration, yes or no? Dave?
Yes, I believe it does. It was an inherited deck, if you will.
Rob?
Yes, economics didn't play a factor in it at all.
Mike?
Yes, I agree that economics is not an issue.
George?
Yes.
And I'm also a yes. Staff, what are the results of the finding for the after the fact?
Madam Chair, members of the board, I have a yes vote to grant the variance.
Uh,
For the after the fact, sorry.
Can I get a motion to grant the after the fact based on the findings?
I'd make a motion to approve the variance for the deck.
Okay. Dave made a motion. Can I get a second?
Madam Chair, I'll second that.
Motion was made by Dave and seconded by George. All those in favor say eh.
A,
Aye. Yes, roll call. Dave?
Aye.
I'm a yes. Rob?
Yeah.
Mike?
yes.
George?
Yes.
All right, all,
We're good.
we're good. Okay, moving on. Now we're doing the construct a 16-foot wide dormer addition.
Madam Chair, is there a variance request for that dormer, or is it just a permit to change it?
Variance,
A variance request.
too close to the water.
Yes, when they originally built the home in 1989, that was where I was
Oh,
discussing.
I get it,
I
yeah.
believe they pulled the 100-foot setback like they always did. If you look at the neighbor's house, it's the same thing. They're a little bit farther. And so we had to go through this process for that because of that. It goes through just a corner of it in my paperwork.
Okay, you guys ready? Any more clarification needed? All right, number 1, the proposed use is allowed in the zoning district in which the subject property is located, yes or no? Dave?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes, it's R1.
Mike?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
And I'm also a yes. Number 2, the variance will be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the official controls, yes or no? Dave?
Yes, I believe the project is in harmony with the intent of the official controls.
Rob?
Yes, it's not encroaching any more than what's there already.
Mike?
Yes, it's not any worse.
George?
Yes, same rationale.
And I'm also a yes. Number 3, the variance will be consistent with the comprehensive plan, yes or no? Dave?
Madam Chair, I would say yes. Similar to the deck, it's item 8 under Lakeshore Living. It does preserve sight lines, does not negatively impact view sheds of adjacent properties, maintains the neighborhood's residential character. So I would say yes.
Rob?
I'm going to say yes under living goals number 3, support housing options that give people in all stages of life and economic means viable choices for safe, stable, and affordable homes.
Mike?
I vote yes, especially in lieu that, or not in lieu, but because the neighbor endorses it as well.
George?
Yes.
I'm also a yes, and I'd like to add Lakeshore Living Policy number 1. We are limiting the impact because we are adding it more towards the road and not the back side of the house. So number 4, the property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner, yes or no? Dave?
Yes, it's a reasonable request.
Rob?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
George?
Yes, it's a reasonable request to improve the looks and bring more light into the house.
And I'm also a yes. Number 5, the plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to the property, not created by the landowner. Yes or no? Dave?
Played, yes, it's, and I apologize, I never quite understand this sentence or what it's necessarily asking. But there's nothing really overly unique about the property. It seemed like it's a reasonable request.
Rob?
Normally, I would say no, but after the discussion about how they used to measure and do all of that, it's not changing anything. It's reasonable.
Mike?
I vote yes.
George?
Yes.
I'm a no. This is just a want for cosmetics, so. Number 6, the variance, if granted, maintains the essential character of the locality, yes or no? Dave?
Yes, I believe it does maintain the essential character. It's higher, but it doesn't undermine any other properties, and it seems to fit within the neighborhood there.
Rob?
Yes, I'll agree with Dave.
George? Or Mike? Mike?
Yes.
Okay.
Twice.
George?
Yes.
I'm also a yes. I'd like to just, it's not gonna change anything in the neighborhood. So, number 7, the need for the variance involves more than economic consideration, yes or no? Dave?
I would say it's more than economic. It's improving lighting. It's I think I read about overhead space and things like that, so it opens up the home a little bit more.
Rob?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Mike?
I voted twice last time. So. Yes.
I'd like to say yes, and economics are not discussed in this. Staff, what are the results of the finding?
Madam Chair, the findings are majority yes votes for all the questions.
Okay. Can I get a motion to grant based on the findings?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay. Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
Motion was made by Rob and second by Mike. Dave, yes or no?
Yes.
Rob is yes. Mike's yes. George?
Yes.
I'm a yes. All those in favor say aye. Opposed say aye. And the motion has passed.
Just like to thank you all for your time tonight. Is there any questions for me at this time?
Time to go to work?
This is all messed up. All right, moving on to agenda item number 2. A request from Michael and Janelle Schiller, Rice, Minnesota, from section 999A of the Sturrs County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance 439 to relocate an existing 936 square foot residential accessory structure less than 30 feet to the right-of-way of Ulster Road, classified as a township road. Also to construct a 560 square foot residential accessory structure addition less than 30 feet to the right-of-way of Ulster Road, classified as a township road. Said ordinance requires a 30-foot setback to the right-of-way of the township road. Affected property is 1.19A, commencing at northwest corner of section, thence east-south 90 degrees along the north line, therefore 1236.66 feet. Section 28, Brockway Township, the property address is 5214 Ulster Rice Road. All right, can we get a roll call on who did visits? Dave?
Yes, I did, and I did speak with Michael.
Rob,
Yes, no discussion.
Mike,
I did not.
George,
Yes, no discussion.
and I am a yes and no discussion. Bear with me here. Staff report, any correspondence?
Sure. Madam Chair, members of the board, there were no correspondence received on regards to this request. Some background information on the property. The applicants own a meets and bounds tract that contains 51,216 square feet, or 1.1 acres, on the Mississippi River in Brockway Township. The property is in an R1 zoning district. The applicants purchased the property in 2020. In 2007, the 2,379 square foot residential dwelling with attached garage and 164 square foot deck were permitted and constructed by a previous owner. In 2021, a 12 by 20, 240 square foot residential accessory structure was placed on the property without a permit. Proposed as part of this request is to relocate an existing 936 square foot residential accessory structure 0 feet to the right-of-way of Ulster Road. The structure was constructed in 1961 per the Stearns County Assessor's records prior to the official controls. It's currently partially in the right-of-way of Ulster Road. The other request is to construct a 560 square foot residential accessory structure addition located 14 feet to the right-of-way of Ulster Road. The property is in the shoreland and floodplain overlay districts of the Mississippi River, classified agriculture along this segment. The Mississippi River is on the list of impaired waters for mercury and fish along the segment as well. The existing impervious lot coverage for the property is 14%. The proposed impervious lot coverage will be 15.5. The existing residential accessory structure being relocated will be 100% deviation from the required setback. The proposed residential accessory structure addition will be 53% deviation from the required setback. Just a reminder that the proposed located structure currently is in the right-of-way, so there's no setback. It's actually in the township's road right-of-way, so they would be moving it to 0 feet from the right-of-way, so away from it somewhat. The subsurface sewage treatment system was certified compliant in April 2025. Brockway Township, Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, and property owners within 500 feet have been notified of this request. And that is all we have. Thank you.
Applicant, please provide your name and address for the record and any comments or questions for the board at this time.
My name is Mike Schiller, property address 5214 Ulster Road, Rice, Minnesota. I'm the homeowner. And I do not have any questions for the board at this time.
Do any of the board members have any questions or clarifications?
I just have a few comments. I'm gonna put on my Brockway Township supervisor hat. And so his proposal actually improves the situation. It gets it from on the right-of-way at 0 feet from the right-of-way, so it improves that situation. And I would also like to point out that Ulster Road is a dead-end road, and the speed limit on that road is 30 miles an hour. So there's not any heavy traffic on there. So that's one of the reasons why we as a township are not too much concerned about the right-of-way.
Madam Chair, I have a question for staff. What happens with the 12 by 20?
So based on the survey that you are looking at there, you will see that that shed will be removed from the property, and when they construct their addition, if the variance is granted, they will obviously need it gone to do that. And having conversation with Mr. Schiller, he has said that that's the plan for that. Now, if the variance was to be denied, then we have a compliance agreement in place that has been signed between the department and Mr. Schiller to take care of that structure.
Question for applicant.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
What's the want or the need here?
Just additional garage space for vehicles. Yep, I have a couple of vehicles sitting outside right now, and I'd like to enclose them.
Madam Chair, if I could, just for some clarification, the 12 by 20 that was constructed, or it says was constructed without a permit in 2021, that older shed is that the shed that we're talking about? There's an older one there? Or is it the newer garage that was built without a permit? Is that an issue here?
Madam Chair, members of the board, the small 12 by 20 up there where it says shed to be removed is the one that was put in 2021.
Okay, it just looked older than,
And I don't know if it was, an existing shed that got moved on the property or.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You may ask the property owner if he knows. He may have information on that. I don't know.
No offense, but the shed looked like it was in pretty much disrepair, and it seemed like it was older than 2021, and I just wanted clarification on that.
Yeah, actually, it was built in 2021, Dave. The reason it looks older is, as I started pursuing this and thinking about this, I looked at my square foot limitation, which is 1,500 square feet.
Okay.
And the 560 square foot addition would put me at 1,496. So that 12 by 20 garage I had already built, but I never finished, including the fact that I didn't shingle it. That's why it looks in
Okay,
disrepair.
all right, okay. No offense, I just wanted,
Yeah, no, it
I
does
just wanted
look
to
in
make sure.
disrepair.
Okay.
Anyone wanting to provide any testimony, please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Anyone wanting to provide any testimony, please come forward and state your name for the record. Anyone wanting to provide any testimony, please come forward and state your name and address for the record. I'm going to ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
Madam Chair, I'll move to close the public hearing.
And a second.
I'll second.
George made the motion, Dave seconded. Are there any further discussions? I do have a question for you guys. Do you want to do these as one, or do we want to do them separate? Because one is to relocate and the other one is to construct.
My opinion, doing them as one would be fine. It's, the relocating and adding two is, I guess I would be okay with it being one vote.
I agree.
George?
Concur.
Rob?
Yep.
Okay, so we're gonna, our variance is to relocate an existing and then to construct a 560-foot residential accessory. Okay, is there any further questions? We're all good? Okay. On number one, the proposed use is allowed in the zoning district in which the subject property is located, yes or no? Dave?
Yes, I'd say it's allowed.
Rob?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
George?
Yes, accessory structures are allowed.
And I'm also a yes. Number two, the variance will be in harmony with the general purpose and the intent of the official controls, yes or no? Dave?
Yes, I believe it's in compliance.
Rob?
Yes, as George said, we're going to move it back out of the right-of-way to the edge of it anyway.
And I'm gonna piggyback onto yours, and, I believe George said with the township, that's actually an improvement.
Yes, it
So,
is.
Mike?
Yes, getting that out of the easement is key.
Okay. George?
Yes,
Okay. Number 3, the variance will be consistent with the comprehensive plan, yes or no? Dave?
I would say yes, specifically living goals. Item number 1, as we've heard, it would seem to be an improvement as far as getting it out of the right of way. There's seems like there's been some collaboration or support from the township. So item 1 of living goals.
Rob?
Yes, I agree with that.
Mike?
Yes,
George?
yes,
And I'm also a yes. Number 3, the property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner, yes or no? Dave?
I would say yes, it's a reasonable proposal. It, again, somewhat fixes the right-of-way issue, and it's appropriate for the area, I believe.
Rob?
Yes, I think it's reasonable to want to put your cars in a garage.
I'd like to add to that and keep them out of the elements. So I'm a yes. Mike?
yes,
George?
yes,
Number 5, the plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to the property not created by the landowner, yes or no? Dave?
Yes, it was, the older shed was inherited. It's moving that, it's gonna improve the look of the area, so, I'd say yes.
Rob?
I agree, yes.
Mike?
yes,
George?
yes,
I want to say that this property is unique, the way that the road does come in there, and it is a dead-end road. I mean, so I'm a yes. Number 6, the variance, if granted, maintains the essential character of the locality, yes or no? Dave?
I don't believe that it would, so it would not, so I'd say yes, it's consistent, and I think it, again, brings some improvement to the overall neighborhood.
Rob?
I'm gonna say yes, it's gonna get rid of the new old one and move the building back out of the right of way, so it's actually gonna be an improvement.
I want to just add to this, because removing an eyesore and putting something nice there is huge. So I'm a yes. Mike?
yes,
George?
yes, there are other accessory structures along that road.
Number 7, the need for the variance involves more than economic consideration, yes or no? I'm going to say yes, economics were not discussed. Dave?
I would say yes, it's addressing the setback issue and, again, just general improvement to the area.
Rob?
Yes.
Mike?
yes,
George?
Yes,
And I was a yes. Staff, what are the results of the finding?
Madam Chair, members of the board, we have a majority yes vote for all the findings of fact questions.
Okay, can I get a motion to grant based on the findings of facts?
Madam Chair, I'll move to grant.
I got a motion from George. Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion made by George, second by Mike. Dave?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Mike?
Yes,
George?
Yes,
All those in favor say aye.
aye,
Aye.
Opposed say sign. Motion passed. Okay. We are going to have an agenda change right now, so we are going to do the Michael Yeager property. All right, can I get a roll call on site visit? Dave?
Yes, I did. No contact with the owner.
Rob?
Yes, no conversation.
Okay, I'm a yes, no conversation. Mike?
No.
George?
No.
Okay. Um, The fourth agenda item is a request from Michael Yeager Rice from sections 9.99A of the Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance 439 to construct a 560 square foot residential dwelling addition less than 30 feet from the right-of-way of a private road in easement. Said ordinance requires a 30-foot setback to the right-of-way of a private road easement. The affected property is the part of the northwest fourth of the northwest fourth of Government Lot 1, Section 28, Brockway Township. Address is 5201 399th Street, Rice, Minnesota. Staff, can we get a report?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Some background information on the property. The applicant owns a meets and bounds tract that contains approximately 52,272 square feet, or 1.2 acres in Brockway Township. The property is in the R1 zoning district. The applicant purchased the property in 2021. Some history on the property. In 1969, per the Stearns County Assessor's records, the existing 1,632 square foot residential dwelling with attached garage was constructed prior to the official controls. In 1975, per the Stearns County Assessor's records, the existing 700 square foot residential accessory structure was constructed prior to the same official controls. What is proposed today is to construct a 14 by 50, 560 square foot residential dwelling addition on the north side of the existing residential dwelling. The property is not in the Shoreland Overlay District. The existing impervious lot coverage is approximately 8%. The proposed impervious lot coverage will be approximately 9%. The proposed residential dwelling addition would represent a 47% deviation from the required setback. The subsurface sewage treatment system is not affected by the request since the property is not in the Shoreland Overlay District. Brockway Township and property owners within 500 feet have been notified of this request, and I have not received any other correspondence regarding this request. Thank you.
Applicant, please provide your name and address for the record and any comments or questions for the board at this time.
Mike Yeager, 5201 399th Street, Rice, the homeowner. Just to clarify, I think you said 14 by 50, 14 by 40, so I just want to clarify that. So we're looking to do an addition. We have 3 kids, so I can't build to the east, I can't build to the west, or to the south. So this is the only option to go. What those 2 are is the private road is like a driveway with 3 people on it. Oh, sure. Yeah. Let's see if I can figure this out. Okay. So that one, that private road, is a shared driveway essentially with 3 of us on it. My setback would actually meet where that ends. So the other one that they pointed out that affected is that easement. Well, that easement is down a hill from those 2. So what you can't see very well in this topographic map is that it goes downhill. So it's not a road, there's nothing there. It's probably never going to be affected, you know what I mean? So I just wanted to point that out.
Who owns that easement?
Paganchnik, I don't know. Yeah.
And they had no issues, there was no correspondence.
No. And it's not even a dirt road or anything, just to clarify.
Sure.
Is there anything in the easement?
Nothing. And I still, I'm still quite a distance from it. It's not like I'm building up to it. It's that 53 or 63 foot road center line that really is what we're up against.
So what exactly are you adding? What do you?
Just add in a bedroom and bathroom and living room extension. So, yeah. And then my septic's been certified. And
Where's your septic on the property?
In the south. So I got a road to the north, easement to the east, I got a county road to the west, and a septic to the south.
Is this a well, do you have a well on the property as well?
Yeah, that's out of the way.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so that, so my whole backyard, the south side is septic, so.
Okay.
Madam Chair, members of the board, so the tanking is here, the drain field is over here.
Okay.
Is the red box on there,
That's the addition.
That's the addition.
and it would be that size
Yes, 14, so
in
the width of the.
relation to the rest of the house?
Yeah, so it's the face of the house, just out 14, and I kept it 14 verse further, so I could meet the reasonable easement, or setback as if there wasn't a center line road, so I tried to be mindful of that.
Sure. George, I have a question, George.
Yeah.
Is this something that the township would?
No, it's a private road. We don't have jurisdiction over the private road, so this setback is a county
That's a
county
county?
requirement, not a township.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Madam Chair, and I don't know, this maybe is for staff, I'm not sure, if they're adding a bathroom, is the drain field adequate for that?
Madam Chair, members of the board, so bathrooms do not affect whether or not the drain field is adequate. It would be affected by the additional bedroom,
Okay.
and I believe they have enough capability at this point for the additional bedroom.
Okay.
And that was a mound septic system, right?
No mound, we have good sandy soil, so we don't need a mound
Oh,
out
you have
there.
the drain
Yeah.
field.
And I did have my design done, they were actually able to do it, so the design is complete, so it's certified right now, so if this wasn't approved, my septic's still good, but they did design it for the extra bedroom, the drain field is big enough, everything, so it's actually an improvement on the property by replacing a 30-year septic anyway, if this is improved, or approved.
Do any of the board members have any questions or clarifications for applicant or staff? Rob, you good?
No. Oh, sorry.
Anyone wanting to provide any testimony, please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Anyone wanting to provide any testimony, please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Anyone wanting to provide any testimony, please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Okay, can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
Madam Chair, I make that motion.
Mike made a motion. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Dave. Is there any further discussion? If none, we will close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say aye. The public hearing is closed. We will proceed to the findings. Okay, number 1. The proposed use is allowed in zoning districts in which the subject property is located, yes or no? Dave?
Yes, yes, it is.
Okay. Rob?
Yes, it's R1.
Mike?
Yes.
George?
Yes, the residential structure is allowed.
And I am also a yes. Number 2, the variance will be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the official controls, yes or no? Dave?
Yes, I believe it will.
Rob?
I believe it will. It hasn't, he's done everything he can.
Okay. Mike?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to say yes to this too. Number 3, the variance will be consistent with the comprehensive plan, yes or no? Dave?
Yeah, yes, I would say, under living goals, support, item number 3, support housing options that give people in all life stages and all economic means viable choices for safe, stable, and affordable homes.
Rob?
Yes. I agree with that.
Mike,
Yes.
George?
Yes.
I'm also a yes. Number 4, the property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner, yes or no? Dave?
Yes, I believe while it's a reasonable request, it's consistent with the area and doesn't distract from others, so.
Rob?
Yes, living space is reasonable.
Mike?
Yes, I agree with that living space issue.
George?
Yes.
I want to say that adding a bathroom and a bedroom is reasonable, and their septic system drain field there's a backup plan too, so I'm a yes. Number 5, the plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to the property, not created by the landowner, yes or no? Dave?
Yes, I mean, it's a kind of a non-traditional cul-de-sac, and they are proposing an addition that I think fits with what that dead-end road is looking like.
Rob?
One of the few times I can say yes to this question.
Mike?
Good then.
Yes, neighbors don't have a problem with it.
George?
Yes, he's restricted by the uniqueness of the property. It's the only place he can put it.
And you're right, and the county doesn't seem to have any issues, so I'm also a yes. Number 6, the variance, if granted, maintains the essential character of the locality, yes or no? Dave?
Yes, again, I would say for same reasons, it's a non-traditional dead-end road, somewhat of a cul-de-sac feel to it, but it doesn't distract from other property owners in the area.
Rob?
I agree.
Mike?
Yes, I agree.
George?
Yes, adding to the house is not going to change the character of the locality.
And I'm also a yes. Number 7, the need for invariance involves more than economic consideration. I'm going to say yes, economics were not discussed. Dave?
I will say yes, it's again, just a unique lot situation, configuration. There's not many other options other than what's being proposed.
Yeah, he's kind of got a lot of roadblocks. Rob?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
And I'm also a yes. Staff, what are the results of the finding?
Madam Chair, members of the board, they were all answered in a majority yes.
Okay, can I get a motion to grant based on the findings?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, Rob made a motion. Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Dave. All in favor, say aye. Dave?
Aye.
Aye.
Or Dave, yes or no, sorry. Dave,
Or-
yes or
yes,
no? Yes or
yes,
no?
yes.
Okay, Rob?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
And I'm also a yes. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say
We
aye.
did.
Yep, okay. I am gonna, you're good to go.
Awesome.
Any
Thank you for
questions,
your
our
time.
staff?
No.
I'm gonna call for a 5-minute break here.
No, you're doing fine.
Yeah, well, it's,
Lot 7, 1482.26 feet south and 18286 feet east, and northwest corner of Lot 7, Section 16, Collegeville Township. The property's address is 29714 Lilac Road, St. Joseph. This is just a reminder to the public. Tonight's meeting is focused solely on the appeal of documentation from local fire department that the property can be served in the event of an emergency. There will be no discussion regarding rentals in Collegeville Township. Roll call on board members who were able to visit the site. Dave?
No.
Rob?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
George?
No.
And I'm also a yes. Staff report and any correspondence received.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. To give you a little information, I'm just going to kind of read section 6.62 on vacation home rentals. A vacation short-term rental shall be subject to administrative requirements of section 4.18 for an interim use of the ordinance for rentals with more than 8 occupants or more than one rental on the parcel. Section 4.22, provisional use for rentals with 8 or less occupants, and the following must meet the following performance standards. Letter A, submittal of an application signed by the property owner and including the following: a current water test from an accredited laboratory with test results for nitrate, nitrogen, and coliform bacteria. Number 2, a compliance inspection of the existing subsurface sewage treatment system. Letter 3, a 2-scale drawing of the location and dimensions of the structure intended for licensing and all associated accessory structures, parking areas, shore recreation facilities, and sewage treatment systems, and any surveillance cameras. And number 4, which this is the appeal for, is documentation from the local fire department that the property can be served in the event of an emergency. Number 5, documentation that the property lines have been staked by a land surveyor currently licensed in the state of Minnesota. Number 6, documentation that the owner sent out notice to the township and neighbors within 500 feet indicating their intent to apply for the short-term rental. Said notice shall include property owner's contact information. And number 7, completed short-term rental consultation form. A little background information on the property. The applicants own a meets and bounds tract that contains approximately 2 acres on Big Watab in Collegeville Township. The property is in the R1 zoning district. Some timeline information. On 8/8/2024, the applicants purchased the property. On 1/2/2025, Jamie Reinschmidt called to inquire about doing short-term rental. Staff went over the requirements. On 1/3/2025, Jamie emailed staff the consultation form and $250 payment, which was passed along to our inspector for the short-term rental, Greg Kuschel. Jamie also emailed staff the letter from the city of Avon. The letter states the property is indeed serviced by the Avon Fire Department. Staff emailed Jamie the zoning requirements, including list of landowners within 500 feet of the property. From 1/6 to 1/8/2025, staff and Jamie exchanged several emails about zoning ordinance requirements, occupancy limit, septic size, property survey, etc. On 2/26/2025, staff received a complaint about the short-term rental operating on this property. Said complaint included a link to the Facebook listing. The listing included reviews showing the property had been rented on more than one occasion in February of 2025. Staff mailed and emailed a letter to the property owners notifying them that the zoning ordinance violation and outlining steps for compliance. Rental and advertising were required to cease. Staff reviewed the letter from 1/2 of 2025 from the City of Avon and reached out to the city for further information on serviceability in the event of an emergency. On 3/5/2025, staff received an email from the City of Avon explaining the challenge with access on Lilac Road and stating Chief Swenson would recommend not allowing a short-term rental license for this property. On 3/6/2025, staff emailed the Reinschmidts that the short-term rental will not be approved for this property, noting that no zoning application has been received at that point. On 3/10, staff received a letter from the Reinschmidts asking for reconsideration. And then on the 17th, staff sent a letter to the Reinschmidts confirming the decision that the short-term rental will not be permitted and provided the option to appeal the decision. Staff asked the Reinschmidts for clarification where the online rental listings stated that it was currently being rented for the 30-day minimum stay, and they provided us that information. On 4/1/25, we received a letter from the Reinschmidts asking for reconsideration again, and said letter included additional information from the City of Avon. And 4/4/2025, staff responded to the 4/1/25 letter with an email stating staff's position remains the same, and then the appeal request was submitted by the Reinschmidts at this point. We did receive correspondence for this request, and all of those correspondence have been provided to you. Our last one came in this morning, and they were emailed to you guys and also to the Reinschmidts as well. We have a packet of those. If you did not have a chance to see those, they are in front of you. And we haven't received any other correspondence since those have been emailed to you.
Applicants, please provide your name and address for the record and any comments or questions for the board at this time.
Good evening, Jamie Reinschmidt. Our home address is 4409 Nason Parkway Northeast in St. Michael, Minnesota.
Brock Reinschmidt, same address.
Do any of the board members have any questions or clarifications?
Madam Chair, member of the board, before we do that, do you want to let them have
I'm
a
sorry.
chance to
Yes,
speak on
yes.
behalf of the appeal?
Yes, I apologize.
That's okay. So we did provide a letter to the board. First of all, thank you for taking the time to review all of the information that we've provided for purposes of this appeal. We did provide a letter that we wrote. It was submitted on Tuesday, so if everybody did have the opportunity to review that, I can be much more concise and more presented in a summary fashion if everybody received it and had the opportunity to review it. Yeah, okay. So we understand and respect that there are concerns raised by our neighbors and want to take a moment to clarify a key point. It's our understanding, and speaking with one of our neighbors last weekend, that he's under the impression that we're going to be renting to 24 people. I'm not sure where that number came from. It's triple the number that we're seeking a permit for. We're seeking a permit for a maximum occupancy of 8 people. I guess I don't know for sure, but I would hope that that would ease a lot of their concerns. 24 people is understandably a lot of people to introduce into that community. We do believe that 8 is much more reasonable. We included more information in our letter, but in short, our plan for this property is, in the long term, for this to become our forever home. If we're able to obtain a short-term rental permit, our plan would be to rent the home periodically. Our goal is to use it for ourselves and our 2 young children, and then our family members who live around the area, and then rent it out when we're not using it. What we have in mind is maybe 1 to 2 rentals per month in the summer, and then periodically throughout the fall and spring, we're thinking probably like 2 or 3 day weekends for the guests. The rest of the time, we would be using it ourselves. The goal really is just to help offset the mortgage. If we're not able to obtain a short-term rental permit, we would be doing long-term rentals, which wouldn't give us the opportunity to limit the occupancy of the number of people that are going to be staying there, and it wouldn't give us the opportunity to use the home ourselves with our children like what we want it to do. We do want to make sure that everyone understands that we have not rented this property at all since we purchased it. In fact, it's not even really quite ready yet. We're still working on it. The reviews, excuse me, that were on the Facebook page were from my mom, my sister, and my friend. They stayed there with us. We also want to use this opportunity to, again, reassure the board and all of our neighbors that we are fully committed to being respectful and responsible neighbors.
So as we said earlier, our long-term goal is to move here within to be determined, but we want to be very good neighbors, and we understand their concerns. So we want to take the opportunity to try to limit their concerns and hear them out while being good neighbors to them. Sure.
We've done what we could to try to collect some evidence to show that the property can be serviced in the event of an emergency. We were able to obtain some records from the fire department. We provided a photograph of a large equipment vehicle that was located 2 houses down from ours. It's farther down Lilac Road than ours is. And in comparing that in size to the photos online that we found of the fire trucks, it does look to be about comparable in size. I also just wanted to point out that we understand and don't mean to diminish the concerns of our neighbors, but I do think it calls into question a lot of these neighbors live on this road. They have chose to build properties on this road. They invite guests to this road and stay the night there. And I just would ask the board to question what their motives may be in consistently raising safety concerns if they're comfortable living there and having guests stay the night there. We understand that having a short-term rental in the community, I think if you ask anybody, anytime somebody is applying for a permit, the community is generally going to say no thank you, and we understand that, and we understand why. But Stearns County did implement ordinances a couple of years ago, taking those concerns into consideration. This board has the authority to grant or deny the permit, either in whole or in part, and we understand and acknowledge that there might be some concerns in the winter, so we are respectfully requesting that the board grant our appeal in part to allow us to have a short-term rental permit that is limited to March through November, and that we would also be open to any other limitations that the board sees fit, such as limiting the permit so that we can only obtain the conditional use permit and not the interim use permit, which would allow 12 plus guests. We are hopeful for the opportunity to share our home in a way that is responsible, limited, and respectful to the community. Thank you.
Do any of the board members have any questions or clarification?
Madam Chair, I do. I'm not sure, maybe this is a staff question. I understand item 4, the need regarding a short-term rental documentation from the local fire department that property can be served in the event of an emergency. I guess my question is, if this was an owner-occupied dwelling. I don't believe this same provision would apply, or restriction would apply. Why does this, and assuming I'm right on that, why does this restriction, or was it a basis for denying just because it's a short-term rental? Whether people are in it, whether they're the owner or the renter, I'm just trying to understand in my mind the difference.
Sure, Madam Chair, members of the board. The stance that the county took is if you own the property, you've been to the property, you've been down the road, you know what you're getting into. Where a short-term rental, they're just seeing the property on an, on pictures that are on Facebook or whatever. So they don't know what that driveway or that private road or that road looks like to get to that property. And so for health, safety, and welfare, our determination was if the fire chief doesn't recommend the granting of this permit, they're the ones who have to get emergency vehicles down the road. Does that make sense?
Well, it does, but again, I'm struggling with the distinction between it being an owner-occupied dwelling versus a short-term rental. I mean, the perceived inability for emergency vehicles to get to the house wouldn't matter in my mind. So.
Madam Chair, Shelley Benson, Environmental Services Director. As Jamie indicated, the purpose and intent of our ordinance is to protect the public health, safety, and welfare. And when we do that, you take your own risk as you buy and sell properties as an individual. As soon as we add this public element to it, which is short-term rental, or I'll just use another licensing, food and beverage, youth campground, areas where we have increased public presence, that's when we have additional requirements. This particular section 4 was added when we went through the process a couple of years back with vacation home rentals, and added the provision related to documentation because of other properties that were being served, and that was a perpetual question. Can it be served adequately for emergency purposes? And in a couple of cases, the answer was no, and they had to deny those requests. So this provision was put in because we didn't have it before. That's why it's here. That's why we check and go through the process. It's protection of public health, safety, and welfare. And again, as an individual, you make a choice to buy and sell property, and we don't limit that. But when it becomes a public opportunity, place of public accommodation, that kind of thing, that's when we take the extra step. And that's why that was added to the requirements.
I have some clarification for applicants. In your letter, you state, we weren't sure if we were going to rent out the property when we initially bought it, but we would not have bought it if that was not an option. So initially, when you bought it, you didn't even plan on doing this. So, correct?
When we first viewed the home, we were not planning doing it, but then once it started becoming a more serious possibility, it was incorporated into
Right,
our
but you bought this with the intent of not using it as a short-term rental. It was an option that you could do. So regardless, either way, at the end of the day, you were gonna purchase the property, correct?
We would not have bought it if we didn't have this as an option, no.
a viable option.
Madam Chair, I'd like to say something. Yesterday I spoke with the retired fire chief from Avon, and he agreed with Chief Swenson that this is not a good idea.
Well,
And I think, at least from my point of view, the word serviced. Just because I can get my fire truck back there doesn't mean I'm adequately servicing it. I've driven that road in the snow trying to get
Yeah.
someplace in a hurry. It doesn't work.
Yeah,
It doesn't work at night.
I can
Barely
honestly,
works during the day.
I can honestly tell you, I have field roads that are nicer than that road. And to piggyback with Rob, my son is also a fire department, so I did ask him some questions in regards to this too. You had stated that pumper trucks, you know, usually they have to drop a tank. Can they suck water from the lake? They can, but do you understand there's a process to that too? There's a little bit of a turnaround time. When you have a grass fire, you know, things go fast. And when they're driving a fire truck down the road at 10 miles an hour because they want to, you know, not hit that person like I almost did last night running.
I was going to say, don't forget public testimony as well.
I have a comment. I mean, I don't see any legal reason to deny the permit. And that's,
The legal reason would be because you can't, people's safety and risk, if something happens, if there's a fire pulling kids out of a house.
I understand what
Yeah.
you're saying.
So we could spend the rest of the night debating whether this ordinance is good or bad. The fact is it exists, okay? And for me, the issue is not how the applicants feel or how the neighbors feel. They speculate what might happen. The fact is, the fire department said they can service that area. Maybe the wording in the ordinance needs to be changed to be more definitive what that means, but right now, that's what it says. And in my mind, all 7 criteria have been checked off. So how could this board deny the request based on all requirements being met? I mean,
I don't agree with that, George. Just because they say we drove a truck there on the call, doesn't mean that it's been serviced.
But the fire chief said, look back in the documentation that the applicant said. They said over the last 20 years.
Okay. Let's say you go to the restaurant. You order a double bacon cheeseburger, extra mushrooms, large fries.
Right.
The waitress brings you 2 French fries and half a bun. Have you been serviced? Is that good served?
Well,
That's exactly what this is saying.
according to
Just because they got there doesn't mean they serviced it.
But the documentation that the applicants dug up says the record shows successful emergency responses dating back over the last 20 years. Successful.
Means they got there.
Okay. What does service mean? It's what that word is in the ordinance. You have a different opinion about it. I have a different
Because
definition.
I've been an emergency responder. I know the difference.
He has a different opinion of it. Can the fire department service? Can they get there? Can they do something? Yes, they can. The fire chief said they could. I'm willing to hear
So
to residents.
you're gonna agree with the chief on that, but when he says it's a bad idea, you're not gonna agree with that.
Well, he first said it was okay, and then he backtracked. So what's the real?
No, he didn't say it was okay. He said they serviced
They
it. It
serviced
was in
it.
their service area.
I like to go by the past documentation records. They serviced it over the last 20 years successfully. Successfully, that's what it says. Now, and I'd like to hear to residents if they're here. That's great.
Anyone wanting to provide any testimony, please come forward. I want you to state your name and address for the record. How many people are here tonight to speak? Just 3, 4 of you?
About 5.
5? So this is what we're gonna do. One of you's gonna come up at a time. Sorry. We are gonna give you a limit of 3 minutes, okay? So who would like to go first? We're hearing public testimony right now.
You can just line up behind this person so that you're ready to give the testimony.
Does anyone have a timer?
Oh, Jamie's going to get that.
Okay, we're gonna, 3 minutes, and then if, we'll go from there.
And the music will start playing.
Yes.
All right.
I'm Pat Heesers. My address is 29332 County Road 2, but I also have a residence on the lake, 2 houses past the permitting or the applicants. So I think today's road issue is exactly what you're talking about. Can it be serviced? Not is it serviced? And that's a lot of what all the documentation that the applicants have put. Is it serviced? Well, that's great, but the actual ordinance says, can it be served? And that's what we need to focus on. So the Avon chief says that it does not believe he can service the property. That's a fact. He put it in the letter. In their Facebook post that they have advertising the vehicle, they say if it's winter, bring a 4x4. You may not be able to get access to the property without it. So they're aware of it. When they purchased the property, they were unaware of how snow removal works and how road maintenance works and how other things happen on the road. They never asked the question. That's the same question that the short-term renters don't get to ask till they show up and realize they're in a compromised position. The road has been, this is my personal experience, I've lived on that road for a decade. The road has been blocked at least twice a year by down trees. One time it was blocked for an entire day because it was a huge tree. It's the residents' responsibility to remove it. It's our road, we own it, each little piece. Right at the S-curve that we're talking about, where you cannot get a fire truck through, and we'll cover that in a second, the retaining wall is near collapse. It's the residents' responsibility to repair it, and they're not going to until it happens. Personally, I've driven my 2-wheel drive Chevy pickup out there with good tires in the middle of the winter. You can't go up the curve on the S-curve. It won't happen. I've had 2 near misses personally as a pedestrian on the road with other vehicles almost hitting me and striking me at night. It's not safe, but I knew that when we bought the property. I was well aware that it's an 8-foot road and most vehicles are 7 foot wide. One of the things that almost all the county ordinances that I've read in my entire time always have some section that they focus on safety. If you guys make a decision and say that this is a safe thing to do, realize you're nullifying all the work that everyone has put up with the entire ordinance and all the comprehensive plan up to this point. You're just saying, safety don't care today. Did I get my 3 minutes?
You got 30 seconds left yet.
Ooh. One time when we were moving in, I tried to take a 26-foot straight truck and get it back to my property to deliver furniture. So that would be like a Hennen's furniture delivery truck, right? That's the same chassis that fire trucks run on. It's like a 24,500 GVW chassis, same wheelbase. I had a guide in front of me and back of me, tried to drive through the S-curve, couldn't do it. Tried to back up through it, couldn't do it. It doesn't fit. You can't, it doesn't fit. They will not get a fire truck back this road when they try. Okay.
Thank you. Who is that?
Mike Meyer, 29331 County Road 2, and I share the property with Pat, so we're 2 houses down from Ryan Schmitz. We met last summer. Okay, I'll keep it pretty short and concise. Last year, September 1st, our insurance was EMC Insurance. They declined our renewal, stating that because of limited access for fire, they were no longer going to write our property. We had to shop the market for insurance. We ended up with auto owners. Auto owners, again, focused on limited access in the event of a fire, required us to install a central station monitoring system for fire, which we did, and now we get to pay a monthly subscription fee for that service, and in addition, $10,000 deductible for our insurance. This is clearly fire protection in this region outside the scope of the county, when nationwide insurance companies know there's a problem. This has been an issue in Collegeville Township, Lilac Road for decades. November 21st, 2004, here's the St. Cloud Times news story. It's the posting for Collegeville Township and Avon Fire Department. They organized a meeting to discuss this topic, fire protection on Lilac Road. The garbage truck doesn't come down the road. All the garbage cans go to the end. November 24th, 2010, St. Cloud Times talks about garbage pickup, Lilac Road, fire truck. It's a known issue. The narrow road was an issue. So here we are today. That's all the time I need.
Thank you,
Hi, I'm Jamie McBride, adjacent to the property at 29736 Lilac Road. I don't have a lot more to add than what these guys already covered. I will just say, you know, in regards to short-term rentals increasing the risk, in my opinion, I think we hit it a little bit, but the increased risk with the short-term renters, they're not familiar with the property, and in a lot of cases, or many cases, they may not have consideration of the property or the wooded community or anything in the community for that matter. It's a rental, right? With renters changing, and I know they say maybe only 2 or 3 times a week or a month, I don't know. I don't know if we can go off of that, but if we're changing renters every week, that's a new person coming into the property. That's a new person that doesn't understand the property, doesn't understand the fire risks of the property, and we repeat that maybe every week. So new or short-term rentals, in my opinion, bring additional risk. And it's not just a risk for them individually, it's a risk for us as adjacent property owners, because if they start a fire and our fire crew can't get the adequate equipment up to that spot, fires spread, right? A small fire spreads to a large fire in 30 to 60 seconds. It becomes a major fire in 5 minutes. So it's not just about getting equipment up there, it's about getting equipment up there in a timely fashion, and the fire chief is very concerned of that, and that's what he put in his letter. And that's why he says it's not serviceable for these certain situations. And all the cases that were documented, none of those cases involved a large fire. Most of them were medical response. Half of them were canceled. So yes, they service it if you need an ambulance or you need a squad car. If you need a 20,000 gallon pumper tanker up there, it's not gonna happen. And that puts our property at risk as well, because if they can't put that fire out, it's spreading to our property, and we don't want that. That's all I got.
Okay, anyone else?
Good evening, Al Tillman, 29762 Lilac Road. I live a couple of houses down. It's a cabin. So unfortunately, we bought the cabin about 3 years ago, and we are under this similar. We thought that we could have some fire access, but after looking at the amount of trucks that it would take to actually put out a fire, so a 1,000-gallon pumper truck will last. According to the NFPA, it'll last about a minute or two. So 500 gallons per minute is what they're wanting to put on a single-family house. So that's 1 minute for that truck. To get 20 trucks into that road is just not going to happen. It will not happen. Construction vehicles can make it up the bluff, but there's really no time constraint for a construction vehicle to get up a road. So there's no life or safety considerations with that. So that's all the comments I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Al. Anyone else?
Good evening, Jim Henches, 31128 163rd Avenue.
I'm sorry. Clarify your first name again.
Jim
Jim? Okay.
Henches.
Okay.
Just up here, you're talking about just the fire response time. I was on a fire department, retired volunteer fire department. Their tankers haul at the most 44,000 gallons. It's the same size as the truck they had on a picture of that brought the dumpster in. On a fire like that, they wouldn't take multiple trucks. You bring in a truck that's got a tank and they pump out of the lake. So as far as running 5, 6 trucks up and down that road, they wouldn't be able to do that, or wouldn't do that. A normal pumper or pumpers of maybe a little bit longer than that, and I can see, I've driven that road several times myself. I know it's difficult, but to say that they would need a bunch of trucks back there, a couple of trucks would service a fire back there. And also, I know the fire chief in Avon. I was not on that department, I was on a different department, but we service places like that. It takes a long time to get there, but all the other homeowners on the lake, like the one gentleman mentioned, his homeowner's insurance is giving him a bad time. I would say if you turn this down, I would think that pretty much everybody else on Lilac Road would be in trouble with their insurance companies if you feel that the fire department cannot service them. I guess that's all I got to say.
Thank you, Jim. Anyone else? Is there anyone wanting to provide any testimony? Please come forward and state your name and address at this time. Anyone else wanting to provide any testimony, please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Anyone else wanting to provide any testimony, please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Does staff have, board members have any other questions before well, I'm going to close the public hearing. But before we go on to proceed to the findings, does anyone else need any clarification or have any more questions for anyone? The public hearing is closed.
You want to get a motion to close public?
Can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
Yeah, I'll move to close the public hearing.
Okay, George made a motion. Can I get a second to close? Public. And Mike made a second.
All in favor?
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, closed.
Before we move on to the findings, any other questions?
I'm just gonna, if, Madam Chair, I'm just gonna repeat what Director Benson said. Homeowners are in a different situation. They know the risk. They chose to do that. Renters don't have that background. And when the county and the environmental services and the county commissioners updated the ordinance, servicing was for an emergency. It wasn't, can we drive our truck out there? It was, can we effectively respond to an emergency? And that, from the chief of the Avon Fire Department, no, they cannot.
But in fact, he did say they could in a previous email. And
But
after,
they could service it.
and I did look at other counties to see what they did, and some of them don't even have a or a required documentation for.
Correct. Madam Chair, just for clarity's sake, if you know how emergency services work in the county, and a couple of you do, we have emergency service zones, right? Are you in this zone or that zone? Can you serve? Yep. Are you in our emergency service area? Yep, you're in our emergency service area. You're covered by this group, so that you get a listing of the people who are there, right? So you know who's in that service area. Is there emergency service zone areas, right? So I don't know exactly how the question was asked or answered, except to say we asked for clarification so we could get a clear understanding of what they meant by service. That's why we asked the question. Your requirement is to say, we agree the applicant is making an appeal of the request that, or the decision that we made in our department, and you can concur with the appeal or you can deny. Those are your two choices. If you want time to think about it, you can also have time to think about it, and then we would continue the public hearing into the future. So those are really your options in front of you. So from our perspective, if you have questions, we'll do our best to answer those questions. But from the reason it was added, and I know you said it's not in other places, we didn't add it because of other places. This specifically was added by the commissioners because of other vacation home rentals where those things were asked and there were questions about them. And our commissioners asked that question about servicing an area. So that's why that particular requirement was added.
So, Madam Chair, I'd like to point out in these 7 items that's listed here, there is no item that says we need to pick renters that care about the property. That's not a criteria.
This is literally only about that element, emergency service.
I
Yes.
understand that, but there was comments tonight about renters do this, they don't care, they might do this. a lot of speculation. I'm just pointing out, we need to focus on the criteria that's in the ordinance today.
That's just renters. That has nothing to do with the ordinance. Those are just
That's what,
comments.
that's my point.
Yeah.
We need to focus on what's in the ordinance.
Yep, exactly.
Madam Chair, I have a question for staff. Has the Avon Fire Department been asked or made a determination on servicing any of the other properties on Lilac Road?
We haven't asked because they haven't risen to that public element. It's private property, just like the road is private. So we don't ask when it's private property being bought and sold, only when they're asking to do something like an accommodation for public purposes. That's when that's why this was added into the requirement for all the county, not just here, but across the county. And that's why that element was added.
I got a question for applicants. This is maybe stupid. But I did notice that there are red signs along the roadside that say AVFD, so I'm assuming Avon Fire Department.
That's just, again, that goes back
Right.
to the emergency service
Right.
number.
So-
So everybody would have gotten one. They don't use those anymore. They use the 911 numbers. Those are old signs. But anybody who is in a fire district, regardless of which one, you'd get your number, fire district, whatever it is, and then it would tell you who should all respond to those areas.
Okay. That's what I wanted to know what the meanings were.
Yeah. But those were replaced with 911 signs, so.
Do you guys have anything you want to add?
Thank you. I guess it was my understanding that the board had the authority to grant us a limited license. Ms. Benson had said something about you guys could approve the appeal or deny the appeal or approve it in part. So I just want to reiterate that we are requesting a limited license that would not allow rentals in the winter.
The license is different than this. This is the appeal of this requirement. The license is a whole separate process that would be different. So this is the department made a determination that the information documentation that was provided didn't meet the requirement. They're saying, we believe it does meet the requirement because they provided certain pieces of information. So that's what's at question. It's the appeal of that decision, not that we're limiting, we're not creating a condition related to it, and we're not talking about the vacation home rental per se. This only gets them to the opportunity to put in the application for that vacation home rental, which then has to go through, as they indicated, they had talked to licensing staff and had conversation about all the other elements with staff as well.
Yes, please come forward. Oh,
Public hearing's closed.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't have more comment to add, other than there's a mistake that you're making. So there's 3 emails from the city of Avon.
Okay.
Public hearing's closed.
Were those included? So all the testimony was included in your packet.
Including the one from the Avon Fire Chief that says
Yes.
we shouldn't approve the appeal.
Am I able to add something?
That's up to the chair. Yep.
Yes, you may.
The email is from the city clerk, and I do just want to point out, I think there's some question about maybe how accurately the information may have been relayed, or whether there was a thoughtful review of the serviceability of our property, given that the fire chief's position did change after he had multiple conversations with us, and I think put a little more thought into it. And then that's all I have. Thank you.
email she was referring to, I believe, and from the city clerk to Jennifer Buckentine. Rescue equipment becomes very difficult to get back there and takes a considerable amount of time to even attempt. This decreases the likelihood of success in saving a life or property in the event of an emergency, which is the county's goal in saying that its property can be properly serviced by a fire department. This email is very specific that it cannot be.
I'm just trying to figure out if there's some middle ground here, and in property insurance, when he does convert to short-term rentals, that's got to go up. I mean, it's got to be crazy up.
Just for your information, the questions that you have in front of you are related to, I had them on the screen. I'll put them back on the screen. They're not your normal findings of fact. They are appeal findings. So if you want to think about those, it's an opportunity to do that.
All right, so we are going to move on to the findings of fact for supporting or denying an appeal.
And just for clarity, you don't each vote on it, but you should have discussion with each of these elements, and then you vote at the end.
Okay. So first discussion question is, what is the intent of the zoning ordinance as it relates to this appeal?
And would that be those 7 items?
Just the one item.
Just the one item,
The only one we're
the one that was highlighted.
What are your thoughts or opinions on how the intent of the zoning ordinance relates to this appeal in front of us?
I don't think they considered this situation. So I don't know what to do.
I think the intent of the zoning ordinance in relating to this is, can emergency vehicles get there safely, quickly, and effectively? And you have to answer no.
Well, those words are in the ordinance, though. Safely, quickly, and effectively?
Right, the plain language says, can it be serviced? It can be serviced. Is it good service? Maybe not, but it can be serviced. It checks that off.
And I agree with George, and there is record, obviously. It's been serviced. So. Dave, what are your thoughts?
I'm struggling with a little bit. I understand the distinction between an owner-occupied situation versus a short-term rental. You know, I don't view this like this is not like a multi-unit hotel. This is a single-family residence. It looked like, but from what I read, there have been some precautions taken by the owners to provide some notification, fire alarms, and smoke detectors, things like that. I think the other residents on Lilac Road are at risk to fire damage, whether it's owner occupied or rental. So I'm struggling with that, and I also feel like, at least in one case, there's some kind of hearsay. You know, the clerk is saying that the fire chief is saying they can't service it, and then in another place it's saying they can. So I'm confused. It would be tough for me to decide on this matter, or that provision. I think I'm struggling with the provision in the statute as well. I mean, I think it's And I'm questioning if anybody should live on Lilac Road. I don't mean to be facetious about it, because it's a serious issue, I get it, but, so, I'm struggling. I guess I'm just,
Let me ask
Where I'm
you,
at, where
let
I'm
me
at.
ask you this, as the ordinance reading, this is just simply yes or no. Is there documentation from the local fire department that the property can be served in the event emergencies?
and I think it's conflicting, in my
Or
view.
no? Is documentation provided from the local fire department that the property can be served in the event of an emergency?
She's looking for a yes or a no.
Yeah, I understand, and I'm trying to figure out the right way to,
If you
I guess
don't
it's-
feel as a group, if you don't feel you're able to, you have the option to continue to the next month for additional.
I want
Additional
everyone's
time.
opinion on this.
Yep, I'm just making sure you know that
Yep.
you can try to force a yes or a no, but not everybody feels it's clear, and that's what I'm hearing. So,
George, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think you know my thoughts. If I look at the ordinance, and it says, can it be served, there's documentation to show that it's been served over the last 20 years. Now, there's a degree of service. Is it good service? Is it bad service? Is it mediocre? But it has been served. That's factual. It's not hearsay, it's factual. Regardless if it was a fire truck, an ambulance, a squad car, whatever it is, it has been serviced. Can it be serviced in the future? The answer is yes.
and I struggle too with the fact that this is narrowly focused on fire. What about, EMS, an ambulance rig? Why is it just fire? And I, like Rob, I was a cop for 32 years. I got in, there's some narrow roads.
But that's beyond,
It's just,
but
yeah,
that's beyond the
exactly.
scope of what we're trying to do. The scope is that one issue in the ordinance.
Yes.
Can it be served by the fire department?
And I would have to say yes. And to your point, it's debatable maybe how well, but
Right.
But that's not asking how well, it's just asking if it can be serviced. And he's saying, yes, it can.
yes, it can. They can get, I believe they can get water on the house if there's a fire. Now, whether it's,
I think that they need to redo this ordinance. I think it could be better.
we always find it can get better, yes. But because it's in front of you, you get to answer the question today.
We have to deal with what we have.
Yep, no, I agree. Does anyone else have an opinion? I fully agree with George. There is documentation from a local fire department that it can be served. So,
Go through all the questions.
okay, number 2, what is the intent of the comprehensive plan as it relates to this appeal? Discussion.
Staff, can you clarify that question? That doesn't seem to apply to this situation.
In the staff report, there are sections that could apply related to this area. So supporting housing options, connectivity, there are various goals. For example, number 1, develop and maintain a transportation system that promotes the safety, mobility, and access of all users. So there are multiple goals within the comprehensive plan that reflect. So the idea is that as you go through an appeal, you're looking at more than one area, because our job is to look at the comprehensive plan, the intent of the ordinance, all those pieces. Also, this is what the staff looks at and how we developed ordinances. Is the language exactly perfect? Probably not, but this is part of what we do.
Hey, can you go back to the questions?
I can.
Okay, so we're supposed to answer this?
Yes.
Yeah, what is the
intent
intent?
of the comprehensive plan is to make sure safety is taken into consideration, right?
Right.
And I'm reviewing the comp, I have the comp plan, and I'm struggling to find something that supports one way or the other. I don't know.
Well, it certainly doesn't support unsafe conditions. It supports safety and the health and welfare of the residents in Stearns County. Can this location be serviced? Back to the question. Yes, it can be serviced.
There's proof it has been serviced. We're gonna go on to question number 3. What sections of the ordinance apply to the subject at hand? Well, it would be section 4, correct?
Yes, item 4 talks about the, can it be serviced?
It would be the 6.62, and then it would be number 4, so.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems to be the only section.
That's the only thing in front of you, yes.
Same
All the
thing,
other
but-
stuff is not part of this situation. They're just appealing the decision that staff made.
Does anyone want to add or disagree to that?
And these are all discussion items. You guys get to vote at the end and make a motion.
On number 4, has staff properly applied the provisions of the ordinance to the activity in questions? Why or why not? I'm gonna read that question again. Has staff properly applied the provisions of the ordinance to the activity in question? And you know what, can we get a little clarification on that question?
Sure. The activity in question is did we interpret and look at the documentation for this request as they have provided to, and then the decision that we made was to say that it wasn't adequate. So that's, did we properly apply the ordinance or not?
And I'm going to say they did not, because they didn't use the plain language definition of can it be served. They interpreted what served meant.
Well, I think they went off for the second email and made the assumption that it
Could be, yeah.
wasn't.
Whatever.
Because the chief was saying no at this time, when he originally had said yes, so.
I'm not totally disagreeing with you, George, but
hear
you can't stop the sentence in the middle. Can it be served in the case of an emergency, is
Well,
what it says.
But that's what the ordinance is getting to. It's talking about that situation, okay?
Right.
All it's asking.
But you can't just stop after service.
Read it again.
Documentation from the local fire department that the property can be served in the event of the emergency.
Right, but he quit at served all the time.
No, can be served.
Can it be served?
That's what it
In
says.
the case of an emergency.
Yes or no? Can it be served? Yes or no? So it can be served.
I'm not totally disagreeing with him,
Okay.
but you have to use the whole sentence,
All right.
though.
That's fair enough.
But if you want to add, can it be served by the fire department? Yes. Can it be served by other emergency vehicles? It
We don't
doesn't-
know.
It doesn't say that in there.
I can tell you no, but it doesn't say that. You're right. It's strictly fire
It's
department.
strictly fire department. It's
Yep.
not asking if EMT, it's not asking
Yep.
if Stearns County can get back there.
Yep.
It's not asking if a helicopter can land. It wants to know if a fire department can this property be served
In the case of an emergency,
in the event.
in the event of an emergency. Right.
And the county took it a step further, and they interpreted what that service actually meant. Getting there in 3 minutes,
Well,
or getting there with a big truck, or whatever. But that's not what the ordinance says. You have to go by the plain language of the ordinance. The ordinance probably should be changed, and we talked about that. But right now, before us, what it says is what it says.
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
I think applicants have definitely done their homework on this.
A lot. Well, I know from speaking with the county commissioner, that wasn't the intent, was strictly service. Their discussion at the board meeting was much more in-depth than that.
Probably was.
But
And it may
you're
have
right,
been,
the ordinance was written poorly.
It is what it is.
but that's not how it was written in the ordinance.
Exactly. I agree.
Well, let's press on.
We're out of questions.
Yeah, that was the last question.
Now somebody gets to make a motion. So
So
you either uphold the appeal as they're requesting, or you deny their appeal based on, and then you can say why you're making your motion to uphold, or you can make your motion to deny, and with whatever reasoning on either side of that.
I make a motion to uphold the appeal because the county misinterpreted the ordinance. They didn't do plain language interpretation of it.
Okay, so George made a motion to uphold the appeal. Can I get a second?
I second it.
Okay, so George made a motion to uphold, Mike made a second. All those in favor say aye.
Roll call.
Or Dave, yes or no?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
George and Mike are yes, and I'm also a yes.
Okay?
So the appeal is upheld.
Upheld, correct. So that's where we're at. And then we'll make sure everybody gets that
But-
information.
And direct all your questions with them, but I hope you guys do get a take on what concerns are out there too. So just, please be respectful to them. Yes, we're not done yet, guys.
Done yet. You have to finish the meeting.
And I just lost my, okay.
It's minute. I don't know why.
So, did everyone have a chance to review the April minutes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, can I get a motion to accept the April minutes?
I'll move to approve the April meeting minutes.
George made a motion, can I get a second?
I'll second it.
Rob, second. Okay, our next meeting is on June 12th of 2025. Do you have an idea on how many?
Madam Chair, members of the board, they have until Monday to submit their applications yet. At this point, I have 3 of them.
Okay.
We gotta vote on the minutes.
You're right. Let's get a vote.
All in, okay. All in, it doesn't say that on here.
I'm sorry.
We'll get that next time.
All in favor, say aye to the minutes.
Aye.
All opposed, say aye. Okay, next meeting scheduled, June 12th, potential 3-item agendas.
We may have some additional discussion related to some training and some possible amendments and process to what we're doing. As to like when we take public testimony and maybe some rearranging on some things. So Angie will be here to talk through some of that. She went to legal training with our planning commission chair, and so there's going to be discussion about process and procedure, and should we be making some revisions to what we do.
Okay. Planning commission needs to work on this.
Oh.
No.
Whoever makes
Language adjustment, yep, I'm sure that will occur.
Number 2, we have a new at-large rep.
Yes.
Let's take a moment to introduce him.
John Wicker is our new at-large member, and he will be joining, he'll be up there with you guys next month.
John, we're so sorry.
Bear with us when we go through the meeting process. Okay, I will ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll move to adjourn.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Motion?
George made the motion,
George.
and it's a tie between Mike and Dave on a second.
I'm giving it,
Mike can have it, I'll defer.
give it to Mike. Mike, okay, got it. All those in favor?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'll get it.
I have to do that roll call. Rob always
No.
calls me out.